What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's your host, Taryell Simmons, in the building for another episode of Rise Urban Nation. And I got I don't know whether to call you big sis, little sis. I don't know. I think we around the same age. I don't even know. But my sis, they call me T, but this is the real T. Miss Conwright is in the building, and she fancy, huh? She fancy, huh?
Hey.
Nails done.
Okay, yes.
Oh
Yes.
man. Thank you for coming on the podcast, sis.
Thank
We
you for
here.
having me. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here. I feel like
Man,
finally, you know what I'm saying?
finally.
Finally, I have
Like-
reached the level in which I'm on Terrell's podcast.
nah, you been podcast material. It's just, us bringing the time and date. Man, like I'm even thinking about our journey. Like, I'll try to remember the first time we met. I don't even remember. I think I was in Sandy Workforce Partnership, but I don't know how we actually met. Do you even remember
Yeah,
that?
connect to careers, right?
Uh-huh.
And
Okay.
back in the day, the early days of Fancy, we were partnering with the Blue Heart Foundation. And
Uh,
Tracy, rest in power, was having his professional development workshops on the weekends for the guys, right? And then
yeah.
we were there. I brought the girls,
Uh-huh.
and you were like the facilitator extraordinaire that was able to connect with the kids and drop that knowledge on them at the same
You know,
time.
we was dropping knowledge, but we was dropping it in a way, we take them to church at
Right.
church.
Yes, yes. So that's where
uh,
we met, and then we've been working together ever since with
man,
various
we've been
youth
out.
groups, youth programs, and kids that
Man,
are looking to launch their careers.
I know, man. It's been a journey too. So much has happened in that journey.
Yeah,
From
yeah.
how you built Fancy from one cohort of girls in one school to like all over the nation. But we're gonna dive into that. Before for the people who don't know who you are, I'm gonna ask you a question, and you could take it as far as wide as you want to go. But who is Miss Conwright? And take it as far as and wide as you want to go with that.
Oh, I am a woman who walks in faith and on
Mm,
purpose. I learned about purpose when I was 15 years old. I was in a local dance team, the Steps of Praise,
mm-hmm,
and we had discipleship twice a week, and we
mm-hmm,
danced on the weekends at various churches, church events, and all throughout the community. And at that young age, I learned how important I was, how valuable I was, and that God had a plan for my life. And it was
mm.
crazy to me because, I grew up going to church on Easter,
Mhm.
Christmas, like on the holidays, right? Mother's Day, Father's Day. So I was not religious at all.
Uh-huh.
However, gospel started to get dope in the 90s. And
Yeah.
my cousin originally joined the group. And I would go and watch her at these, events and things. And I was like,
Mhm.
dang, y'all are kind of dope. Okay. And
Mhm.
so dancing was transitioning into being accepted within the church. And for me, church was always boring. Okay,
Yeah.
like I knew I was taking a nap, I knew I was gonna need some snacks, and I knew that it was just gonna be one of the most boringest times of my life every time I went to church. However, being exposed to church being fun,
Mhm.
including dance, actually having pastors that could, that I could relate to. I could understand what they were saying. I could understand what they were teaching, and I could see myself, in all of that. Just made it more appealing, and so I ended up joining the dance team. And yeah, that really changed my life because it taught me not only the power of God, but the power of God in my life and the power of community.
I love that. I love that. And now that I hear that backstory, like I mean, it just makes sense that you would form F.A.N.C.Y. And for those people who are not familiar with F.A.N.C.Y, aka Detour Empowers, break it down. What is F.A.N.C.Y? What is Detour Empowers? Give us the breakdowns of F.A.N.C.Y. It's not just a
Yes.
song. It's a movement. It's a whole thing.
Right. Right. It's a whole movement. Yes. So Detour, Depositing Empowerment Through Outreach and Urban Redevelopment, is the name of our actual nonprofit organization. So
Mhm.
I like to call Detour the Nabisco and F.A.N.C.Y
Mhm.
is the Oreo, right? F.A.N.C.Y
Mm.
is our program for girls. It stands for Focused and Naturally Confident Youth. And
Mhm.
believe it or not, I started the organization with my younger foster sisters 13 years ago, 14 years ago.
Mhm.
And my sister actually came up with the name F.A.N.C.Y because I knew that
Mm.
I wanted to inspire and empower girls from my own sisters. I grew up with 7 sisters in my household. And so I would take them out to breakfast once a month
Mhm.
and give them advice on what they were going through. And that
Mhm.
advice transitioned into me also mentoring their friends. And that transitioned into me holding classes at the local Skyline Recreational Center. And so I knew that I wanted to continue to do this work. And I knew
Mhm.
that it had to be fun and it had to be catchy, right? So the
Mhm.
same way that my cousin got me into the dance group and into God, because it was fun and catchy, I was like, okay, I got to come up with something that's fun and catchy in order for the girls to, be interested, in order for us to get their attention so that we can educate them and pour into them. And so at
Mm.
that time, the Fancy song by T.I. and Drake, it was very popular, right? And so my younger sister, she's like 14 years younger than I am. She was
Uh,
like, "Oh, we should call it Fancy." And I was like,
uh,
"Yeah, we should call it Fancy." And so we came up with the acronym Focused and Naturally Confident Youth, and we've just
uh.
been rocking with it ever since.
Oh, I love that. So it did come up from the song. I like that's just the song that always comes in my head, but I didn't know
That's it.
it originated from that song.
It originated from the song, and if you can dig real deep, me and my
Uh-huh.
sister actually did a rap to the song.
Oh, I gotta find this now. I gotta find this. I'm
Yes,
about to look in the archive. You should have said that. People,
I gotta
if you got
find
that
it.
out there, let's put that
Yes,
out.
yes. We went into the studio and recorded a whole song over the instrumental. Oh
Oh
man,
man.
those were the good days. Those were the
The
good old
good
days.
old days. One 7, 7, 7 girls. Is that
Oh
what you
yeah,
said?
in the household. Yeah.
Jeez, I had 2 growing up, so I can't imagine 7. Like, how was that? And where are you on the spectrum? Are you the
Well, I'm
oldest,
the
youngest, middle?
oldest. I'm the oldest.
Okay.
My mom has 3 biological kids,
Uh-huh.
and she's raising, like 12 other kids, basically. And she's
Dang.
had hundreds of kids come through her house. She became a foster parent when I was 9. And so
Uh,
since the age of 9, I've always had foster siblings because my mom is a foster parent.
gotcha. So, in essence, like, this work is like your life,
It
because
is.
it's
Yeah,
when
it
art
is.
imitates life, literally.
Right, right. Because I wanted them to know that they're special, regardless of the fact that
Right.
they were in the system. I wanted to know that they still had the same opportunities as, everyone else, as long as they applied themselves and did their part.
Mhm.
They could reach their goals and they could become successful and truly follow their heart in order to, accomplish their desires. And the success of that and the true um, fruitfulness of that
Mhm.
is my youngest foster sister at the time, who
Mhm.
I grew up in the house with. She became a Gates Scholar. So she graduated
Mm.
from Preuss in 2016. She got the Gates Scholarship. She went to
Mhm.
Syracuse University and she
Mhm.
graduated from there 4 years. And so now she is within her grad program, and she took a year off and then she started applying
Mhm.
to grad programs, and now she's working on her graduate degree. But she had a vision, right? She
Yeah.
knew that she wanted to go to Syracuse. She didn't know how she was going to pay for it. She had never
Mhm.
been there. The first time she went to the campus, we were dropping her off for enrollment. And that just shows you the power of having a plan, having a vision for your life, and doing the hard work and staying committed and dedicated towards accomplishing that goal and that plan.
Mhm. Man, I want you to talk to, vision and purpose, because I feel as though, I didn't really get more in alignment with my purpose until much later in life, which was around the connected careers years. I went the route everybody else told me to go with, get a good education, get a good corporate job, but it was not connected to my values, my purpose, none of that stuff. It was just, I don't know what to call it, but it was.
You're just out there.
I was out. I was on the hamster wheel, girl, and you were able to find it so early. Like, how, and then I noticed the difference of you and your team, and when they work with the girls, and Rest in Power Tracy, and working with the boys, of like getting more in alignment with really um, trying to get closer to purpose and identifying values and strengths and so forth. You've done such a great job of that. Tell me the one, how do you how were you able to find it at such a young age, and then how do you go about implementing that into these young women?
Well, I wouldn't say I found it. I would say it found me.
Oh, okay.
Because I showed up, right? And
Yeah.
truly, so I'll go way back to elementary school, even before the dance team and an introduction to purpose.
Mhm.
I knew I
Mhm.
wanted to be an entrepreneur in elementary school. I
Mm.
used to get in trouble for selling candy at school. I had my first business in the 5th grade. It was called Discount Teas. And I had
Yeah.
my friends bringing in their old stuff from home, old toys and stuff that they didn't want. And it was a
Yeah.
resale business on this side. And then I was making paper earrings out of that computer copy paper where you tear off the edges.
Yeah.
I was taking special orders, making earrings out of that, right? And then selling so I was like running this business in the 5th
Uh-huh.
grade. And I knew that I wanted to run a business when I became of age. And I just didn't know what kind of business I wanted to run. So that was something that was an early seed, because my grandfather had a business. My dad worked and had a construction and mechanic business on the side. So like everybody in my family was always doing something on the side,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So like,
Y'all's the family of side hustles. Like,
right, Jamaican, I do that, and yeah, I can do that too. That's my family, and so that's the environment that I grew up in, and so I knew that that's what I wanted to do, and so I started doing
uh-huh.
those things in elementary school. And so, when I got introduced to purpose at that particular time, it was like, oh, my purpose is to inspire my peers, inspire my community, spread the gospel, right? Because we ended up getting the opportunity to dance with Kirk Franklin. And I went on tour with him. And that was a big thing, right? So
Yeah.
at that time, I'm like, oh, I'm about to be famous. That's my purpose. I'm about to be. We at the Grammys, we're at the Soul Train Awards. We're at
They're
all of
like, glory,
talking
glory.
about songs. Do you want a revolution? Okay, I'm in that video. I am in that video. Um, that's what I was thinking. Like, okay, this is it. I'm in entertainment. This is just what it's gonna be for the rest of my life. However, yeah, so didn't make it as far as a backup dancer. Um,
No.
but luckily, though, right? Because I've always been a part of a family that had a
Right.
job and did something on the side. I went to college, right,
Mhm.
and finished my degree at SDSU. And from there, I went into real estate, right?
Okay.
So that started out as a side hustle because I was working my way through college. And so I started working for a real estate office. She was my dad's realtor, and I was
Mhm.
doing her bookkeeping, started out
Mhm.
doing her bookkeeping. And then she was like, you want to know how to do loans, process loans, mortgages?
Mhm.
Absolutely. Right. So now I'm doing the
Mhm.
bookkeeping and the loans. You want to help me prepare these taxes? Absolutely. So now I'm doing the bookkeeping, doing processing loans, and doing taxes. And then
Look, you
she's
ain't lying
like,
about this Jamaican part. Like,
not at all.
me the flight attendant, me the
Right.
pilot.
Okay.
And the beverage server.
Listen, it was not a game, okay? So then she's like, you want to help me with these property management? Because she worked for the church and her
Yeah.
church had like 12 rental properties, right? So
Mhm.
then now I'm helping, making sure the rent gets collected, calling repair guys out if things need to be fixed. Okay, so now I'm helping with the property management. So now
Mhm.
we got property management, the loans, the taxes, and the accounting, right? And then it's like, oh, well, you want to become a notary? You really should be a notary because you're already working on the mortgage loans. So you may as well, get your notary license. All right, I'll do
Mhm.
that. So I was like doing all of these things and learning all of these industries. So then the last thing was like, well, you may as well become a real estate agent. And I was
Mhm.
like, you know what? All right. So that's what I did. That's what I did through college. And
Uh-huh.
once I graduated from college, I was able to go full time working for her. And I was really integrated into the world of real estate and was making a bunch of money. Um, I bought my first house when I was like 20, 21. I bought an
Mhm.
investment property in Vegas. And then in 2005, I bought my first condo in San Diego, right?
Mhm.
But then anybody, who's old enough to know, the recession hit in
Mhm.
2006, right? So I had just
Yeah.
bought my property in
Terrible for everybody.
2005. And
Mhm.
then in 2006, the recession hit, right?
Mhm.
And so then the real estate market slowed. So all the money, I mean, I was driving a Lexus. I had these two properties. I was young. I was in the club. The bottle service was on me. I was
Mhm.
like that dude, right? Then the recession hit and I was no longer that dude. So then now it's like,
Right.
oh, well, who are you without all of this stuff? Who are you without the money? Who are you
Mhm.
without, these things that you've been able to acquire? And that's when I really found myself because I ended up having
Mhm.
to file bankruptcy, right? Because I had a
Mhm.
tenant in Vegas. She moved out. So then it was like, okay, you're going to have to pay to bring the place back up to par and then rent it out again. Do you have the capital to do that? Right? And
Mhm.
then you're not making the money here to be able to afford this mortgage. So like, what you gonna do, sis? And this
Mhm.
Lexus payment is $600 a month. What are we doing,
Mhm.
sis?
Mhm.
So I ended up filing bankruptcy, and it really showed me who I was
Mhm.
without all the stuff. And the stuff,
Mhm.
I didn't have it anymore, right? So I had
Mhm.
no choice but to find myself through that. And that is when I landed on, I really want to help the community. Like, I really want to
Mhm.
go back to my roots and do community work and help the girls because if I can show them now that they're
Mhm.
somebody, that they're valuable before they start to accumulate, all these things that I had, then
Mhm.
how better off will they be? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I definitely
Um,
know what you're saying.
yeah, so that's when the whole, like detour shift started.
'Cause you
It's
made
just
that
it's kind
detour.
of
It was kinda, uh, like you made that detour in life, and that
right.
detour in life help you get right, and then you built this thing to show other people, specifically these young girls,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah,
the route.
exactly. Cuz I ended up, being broke and not having any money. And then I got a great job in 2018, right?
Mhm.
And so that allowed me to build myself back up. And as I was building myself, 2008, not 18, I'm like a decade off here and there.
Yeah. I was like "No, I don't think that's right, cause
Damn,
I met you
2008.
around I met you way before 2018, and you've been
Right,
working."
right. So 2008, I got a great job. I was able to rebuild myself. I went through that whole bankruptcy and foreclosed on the place in Vegas, almost foreclosed on the San Diego condo. And the
Mhm.
the the God in that is I was working on a modification. So that was something that was really big during that time
Mhm.
is like, oh, okay, well, you could do a modification. But then they would do the modification for 3 months and then you had to apply for another modification. And then you could wait
Mm.
like months and you're like, okay, am I keeping the place? Like, what is happening? Right.
Yeah.
Um, so they had my house on the, sale block and like all of that. And the day I was supposed to go sign a lease for an apartment, that I was going to
Mhm.
move in because I had just accepted it. I was like, all right, well, I'm going to just have to start over, and found an apartment. The day that I was supposed to go sign the actual lease,
Mhm.
the bank called and was like, hey, if you could send me your last two pay stubs, we'll approve this modification today.
Mhm.
And I was like, what the heck? You got to be kidding me. Mind you, I had put the holding deposit down already, right? On this
Right.
apartment. So this was like literally, I'm going in to sign my lease. So
Uh-huh.
the bank called. I sent over those last two pay stubs, and by God's grace, I was able to
Uh,
keep that condo and like
oh,
literally
man. What happened to the
rebuild.
deposit, though?
I didn't get my. I lost it. My 250.
Oh,
The whole, you
man.
know, they charge you the little holding deposit to hold the unit,
Well, I
but
guess,
can't win
the
everything. You got to
you
win
can't win
stuff.
everything.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
man, that is, such an amazing story and build up to, I didn't even know that whole story, so, like, I'm glad we did this podcast because there's elements of your story that I knew and elements that I didn't know, and there's, like, really,
It's crazy.
shoot, I might, instead of me going in front of the class telling my story, I might have to have you come up in front of the class because it's funny. I used to remember when I first met Tracy too, rest in power. Uh, he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna have you in front of the Blue Heart Boys and Fancy Boys, but I'm gonna need you to bring that energy, cause they a lively bunch, and you can't be
Right,
like the
right.
other Connected Careers people in here. We need somebody with melanin and energy. So
Exactly.
I know you got the melanin, but I need you to bring the energy." And I
Our
was
kids
like,
like to be engaged and involved, okay?
and I was like, and this is before he see me train. I was like, you must have not seen me train before. My
Oh
trainings, I've
man.
never had somebody say my training is a boring training.
Yeah, yeah. Because believe me, there are a lot of boring ones.
Right. So, um, now that we got there, I'm excited to talk
you,
about
you know what?
uh
Before
what.
we pivot really quick, I just wanted to hit this point. Purpose is ever expanding,
Hmm.
right? Because
Yeah.
yes, when I was 16, 17, 18, dancing was my purpose, right?
Mm.
However, I'm 41 and I can't dance like that anymore, right? I mean, I can, but it's gonna take some Bengay and some heat
Right.
compressions for the week if I give
Yeah.
you a routine right now.
And we not doing it
Uh,
at the same fast pace. We doing, instead of the
right,
running man, we doing the walking man.
exactly. We got the slow bop now, the slow bop. But it's like, as you grow and as you mature, your purpose, it really like shifts. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So what I'm
Mhm.
doing now is just, and even like taking kind of a step back, right? Because when I first started DETOUR, I was doing all of the workshops with the girls, all of the mentoring, all of the everything, right?
Mhm.
However, now, I have a staff, I have people who help me with that, and
Mhm.
I am not able to get to like all the locations like I used to get to, right? And so now I'm kind of still in the same role, but more of like a, like shepherding role, right?
Mhm.
Where like mentoring up the next generation to be able to
Mhm.
take over. So with purpose, I think it's just always it's expansive and it
Mhm.
transitions as you mature, not only in life but in your spirituality and your walk with God as well.
Yeah, and that's what I'm learning as well. And I've learned, no pun intended, in Rise where I took my detour,
Hmm.
um, was when my purpose started to shift a little bit. And so, like, although I had found it, like, and I was in alignment when I was in Connected Careers, there was this shift that needed to happen because now that I got to the person that I need to be for the next stage, I need to fully walk in that to be in alignment so that
Right,
it could just be I could be in flow, right?
right.
And so that new stage of life requires something different of you. So you can't continue to be the same person you was here
Right.
for the new elevation of where you need to be here, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
you gotta level up. You know what I mean? You can't
mm,
go through the 12th grade every year for 10 years. Like, no,
mm,
you got to expand and
yeah.
grow into what's next.
Like, and I remember having a conversation with somebody the other day, like who was going through the same growth spurt in their business, and I'm like, listen, what your nonprofit needs for you now is you're not boots on the ground operations person anymore because you're the founder of this thing, and you have that. And what your company's telling you, and what some of your folks are telling you is like, I need you to go out and be the ambassador and
Right,
spokesperson to bring more money in because we're growing, and I don't need you here in the daily. I need you out there to attract people here, right?
right, right. Exactly, exactly. And I had to. That was a hard shift for me because I didn't
Hmm.
want to make it. I enjoy being in the classroom with the kids, hanging out with the girls. But it's like, all right, so but then who's bringing in the money? You know,
Yeah.
like who's keeping your name in the community? Like who's doing the work to build the organization?
Hmm.
And a lot of founders within our community end up getting burnt out because they won't let go of one thing to pursue another thing.
Hmm.
They continue to do what they did at the beginning as far as hands on every piece of the programming, but you can't
Hmm.
really like grow and scale like that
Yeah.
or have longevity because you'd be burnt out.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
something that I continue to see. Been in the community since I was 15 years old. I've seen tons of people start their program or
Hmm.
start their nonprofit, and you look 5, 10 years down the line and they're not here anymore, or they've just
Hmm.
like shifted because it's a lot of work. It's running a
Yeah.
nonprofit organization. It's like 3 jobs and it's crazy. I was originally going to school to pursue an MBA. That's what because I was like, I want to be this business owner. Then I was like, nah, I don't want to be working 50 to 60 hours a week, in corporate America. And now I'm working 50, 60 hours a week in nonprofit, not making what I could have made in corporate America. But it's
But
fulfilling,
it's fulfilling. Life rewards you in other ways. There's not a price you could put on
Right.
that young lady who's gonna go off and be somebody, be the best version of
Yeah.
herself because you poured into
You know what
her.
I'm saying? I'm just watering seeds. Just watering.
Man, it's gonna come back to you. But to your point, I'm glad that you said that because I think this is a thing in our community, in the Black community, as I see it. 'Cause I've been blessed to be a part of the startup ecosystem as well and social innovation, and a lot of the things they talk about is, uh, you know, how are you planning to exit your business? Like, how do you set it
And
up
we're
for
like, exit?
you know
What?
yeah, and we're like exit because what do people do? Like nonprofits and businesses is that's in the family name. They
Mm-hmm.
work in their businesses until they die, and they don't
Mm-hmm.
set it up for like you can't be there forever. Who's like how's the legacy gonna live on? And then when
Right.
they're gone, that thing disappears. Like
Right.
how many times we've seen that in our community. Like you know. Once upon a time we had a Huffman's, right? And I
Oh,
remember I used to go to the Huffman's to give me some good old barbecue.
the
And I was like,
gizzards. The
yeah,
gizzards.
the gizzards, right? And then, once the patriarchs or the monarchs of that family was gone,
It
Huffman's
wasn't
was
the
gone.
same.
It wasn't the same,
It
right?
wasn't the same. And that's what you get. Like, you have to find a special person. And it's also, it comes into play when you're hiring staff as well, because it's
Mm.
really hard to work with staff when you're the founder,
Uh-huh.
because it's like, look, this is my life. I'm
Yeah.
on all the time. So I'm sorry. I don't know any other way. But and the staff is like, can we talk about boundaries? I'm off at 6, right? And so I have to remember, like, okay, this is 8 o'clock at night. Let me wait. Let me just email
Right.
this. She can check it later, or let me just wait and put my stuff on a list, and then I can talk to her about it
Mhm.
tomorrow, because it's
Right.
always on our mind. And to find someone who is going to be dedicated, like we're
Uh,
dedicated, it's really, really, really hard. Because, even like Tracy used to say, yeah, we meet every weekend. I just tell the
right.
families we meet every weekend. We got something going on every weekend. So if you
Uh,
tell that to a normal staff member, they're like, every weekend? Like, what? Every single weekend, And we be excited. Like, yeah, we got stuff lined up. And they're looking like, oh no, work life balance. So
right.
it is, an unspoken hard shift when you are creating a succession plan, hiring staff, and just building out the nonprofit to move on without you.
Yeah, I remember one time he had me out there 3 weeks in a row, and it was like when my daughter was young, so I had to. Well, she wasn't super young. So I think she was like around maybe 2 or 3, and I was like, I had to bring her with me because
Listen.
mommy was working this over, and I was like, listen, bruh, uh, I love you, and I believe in this, but 3 weekends in a row.
Right, right. And we be like, "Oh, so you're not coming? You're not coming next weekend? We gotta close out the month."
I
Oh,
could do
man.
I could do once every other month. Let's spread it out.
Right. It's crazy. It's crazy. And then even like when I think back to the dance team, right? We had discipleship and practice. It was like, we did our Bible study first and then our dance practice. But that was every Tuesday and Friday. And then like every weekend we had performances. So as an adult, that's not odd to me because
Right.
that's what I went through. And then even when we didn't have practice, we did everything at the church. So even
Right.
if it was like a Wednesday and we didn't have
Mhm.
nothing to do, we'd be like, oh, well, let's just go to the church. So that was
Yeah.
like our safe space and our hangout spot that we were at like multiple times a week. And, the
Mhm.
community that we created. Um,
Mhm.
our leader, Adrian Ewings, his family is big in church. His dad's a preacher who had owned the church. And so it's like you get integrated within their family, right? And it's this
Mhm.
whole just family feel to where you feel like it's another home. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So it is really hard to find like staff that can see it from that perspective and know that for some of these kids, that's what they need because they don't have
Mhm.
that at home and they don't have a
Right.
connection on the school campus. You are it for them. And the
Right.
more you're there for them, the more you show up for them, the more they'll trust you and, really listen to the mentoring that you're providing for them and go in that right direction.
Yeah. That's why, I give my hats off to the people who are able to do it because it's really hard to find somebody that could, have that same dedication and passion, right? Or build it up where you find somebody who goes through it that then grapples onto it
Hmm.
and that's gonna work it like it was their own.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's possible because I've seen like if I'm looking at the corporate world, like if I look at like Apple, like the Tim Cooks and other people who I've seen those executives come in and work a company like it's their own, like, and they give
Hmm. Hmm.
their 14 years of their life to it. If you could find that somebody, hold on to that somebody.
Listen, okay. Yeah, because it's really hard, especially in, San Diego where everybody want to do their own thing.
Hmm.
And it's like you remember back in the 80s when and the 90s when everybody had a church? And it
Yeah,
was like, wait a
yeah.
minute, it's three churches on this block. What? Okay. You mean to tell me y'all can't hear each other and go and talk and maybe work something out? Like,
Yeah, I'm sure we all catching the same Holy Ghost.
right. So I enjoy people who are like me. We work with girls. That's what we
Uh,
do. Right?
right,
Somebody calls me to work with the men, work with the boys. I'm calling you. I'm calling, Blue Heart. I'm calling Ronald. Like I'm calling y'all because I don't do that, right?
yeah,
But everybody doesn't do that,
right,
especially within the nonprofit world where dollars are a thing. people mission drift in order to fit the mold in which they need to fit, to get the
Mm,
funding to keep the organizations going.
right,
Which is like understandable, but I really truly believe that when you stay in your gift, operate in your lane, that you can excel as long as you
right.
have the right partners and the right support.
The other thing to that is you don't have to chase it. You attract it because you
Right,
in your field of genius, you in your zone, you in your bag, and then
right,
you don't have to go try to shift mold and do all that stuff because people already know you the plug, you the go-to for this. So like I'm
exactly,
I'm not gonna waste my time with anybody else. I'm gonna go to the best and forget the rest, right?
right. Yeah, and then to be known for the one thing, right? Like,
Mhm,
we empower girls, we're leadership development for girls of color.
mhm.
That's what we do.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? There's multiple layers within that, but when we're
yeah,
putting out our messaging, like, that's what we do.
yeah. You don't go to a chicken place asking for hamburger, do you?
You don't plant an apple seed and get an orange.
Yeah. Oh man. But let's get into this book because we like me and you can talk forever. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, I, she surprised me with this one. She said, like, give me your address. I'm gonna send you something. And then I get this package show up. Like, I don't know if y'all see this. This the nicest packaging I ever seen in my and then you got the book. Find
Yeah,
Your Flair, a guide to help future leaders. You got your little pamphlet. You got your little QR card. Like this
yes.
right here, I haven't dived into yet. I'm gonna be honest, but I am planning to set some time the next time I get a little breaky break, and I'm gonna dive in. A guide to help future leaders discover their strengths and maximize their leadership potential. Whoo! I
That's
know
it.
there's a Ric Flair drip all up in there, but how did the book come to be? Tell me, like, how this came to be. I knew you probably got 3 or 4 books in you, but how
Yeah,
did this one come
yeah.
to be?
Legacy, right?
Mm,
So I am always thinking about scaling up and, what will be left when I'm gone. And so Find Your Flair for me is a book where I poured in a whole bunch of advice and gave a whole bunch of practical steps for those girls that may not have a mentor in their lives. So they
mm,
can literally, even if you do have a mentor and you just want some extra game, you know what I mean?
yeah.
You can literally read the book. There's links in there to different worksheets that you can go through different exercises with. So it's almost like fancy in a book. So it's a piece of the programming that we do with our girls in person,
Mm,
actually written into the book, so that any girl anywhere that has that book will get the content, some of the content that we share with our girls here in San Diego in our fancy programming.
mhm,
So I wanted to put it out because I'm always thinking of just things that can go beyond what I can physically do. Right. So
mhm,
we were talking earlier about how we're running like 12 groups a week at different school
mhm,
sites and within the community. And so much goes on within these rooms, within these workshops and these spaces. But like, how do you go from 12 to 24? Or from
mhm,
24 to 2400? You know what I mean?
mhm,
You create something to where you can provide that experience for anyone who wants to tap in. And so for my
mhm.
people who have brought the book, not only for themselves, but for the girls in their lives, I can have that same impact without have to being there in person facilitating a workshop.
Nah. And I love that you did that because there's some girls that's not in San Diego that don't have access to fancy, and
Right.
now they can have access to fancy, right?
Yeah.
Um, one of the chapters that really spoke to me that in glancing real quick was you know find leadership programs, and the reason why I resonate with that because my whole evolution to my greater self started with a leadership program. The first one that I went to I think was Leaders 2020. Then after Leaders 2020, went to Rise San Diego. Then I went to Rockwood. And me and both of you. So for people that don't know, both me and T, we both in Rise San Diego, which is a leadership program that really focuses is on urban leadership development, right?
Mhm.
Um, and I'm part of Gen 3. Which gen are you?
5.
Gen 5? Look, it's like, you said
Yes, I'm 5.
5. Well, guess what? I always say the third time was a charm, Gen 3.
Ah!
We got myself, we got Andrew Strong, we got
Okay,
Monica
okay.
Montgomery, we got Sean Elo. My class got hitters.
Y'all got everybody working for the city and the county right there. Bam.
Wait,
All of y'all.
we got oh shoot, we got one more. Hold on, we got Selena. She up in there
Oh yeah, all
too.
of y'all still city and county. All of y'all.
Don't hate, participate. But no, real talk. You know, l- joining leadership programs was the most transformative thing that I did in my life because I was looking for just self growth, and I found it in these leadership programs. It pushed me to a whole nother extension of myself that I did not know existed, right?
Mhm.
Or I was afraid to confront. What was it like for you? Like, why did you put find leadership programs in your book? What is it about leadership programs for you?
I had the same experience. So my first leadership program was Lead San Diego.
That's a good one.
And I want to say it was the impact program, but whatever their main program is, that's like 9 months, and you do
Mhm,
a field trip every month to learn about different sectors that make up the economy of San Diego County.
mhm,
And within that experience is where I found out about the nonprofit management and leadership master's
mhm,
program at USD. I had
mm,
no clue. I didn't even know that the nonprofit sector was a thing. Like I had
mhm,
no clue. So, um, had I not, so this is the way it really started. So, I got my corporate job in 2008, and then within
mhm,
a year and a half, I got promoted to a supervisor position. And so I
mhm,
was like, okay, I'm a supervisor now. Let me start getting engaged in networking and stuff. So the first thing I did was join the African American Alumni Association at SDSU.
mhm, mhm,
And so I met Aaron Bruce through there. He was working for the chancellor's office or the president's office. And he told me about Lead San Diego. So I was
mhm,
like, okay, cool. Leadership program. I'm in this leadership position. Cool, let's do it. So Pat Libby, that was the founder and director of the nonprofit institution at USD at that time, came to speak to us.
mhm,
And I immediately knew that that is what I was supposed to do. Now, mind you, I had been researching
mhm,
MBA programs, but when she came and did that presentation, I said, "Oh, there's a career industry for people who want to do good, like in community
mhm,
work. Like there's an
mhm,
actual industry for this." I had
mhm.
no clue. So I stalked Pat Libby from that day forward because I needed to learn everything about this program and I apply, right? And she was like, "Yeah, you got to take the GRE." And then I was like, "The what?" Because mind you, this was like 2011, and I graduated from SDSU in 2004. So I'm going
Oh,
back to grad school after having this stunt of a break where I was building my real estate career.
uh-huh.
So, oh Lord, I went back. I went to a crash course at SDSU, took the doggone GRE, applied to the program, went to all their open houses and all those things, and ended up getting accepted into the program. And so
Uh-huh,
that was life changing for me. And that scenario situation came from Lead San Diego. And
uh-huh,
then I joined Rise, which was like, and I joined Rise, what year? It was like 2018. Yeah.
uh-huh,
So I graduated from USD in 2013. So I joined Rise 2018. So I had been gone from the campus for a while. And
mhm,
I love the fact that Rise was held at USD because it was like, oh, I'm going back to school again, right? And
mhm,
for me, Rise reminded me of church because I don't really go to church like that anymore. And
mhm,
so it was a place where my spirit was able to like just be fed. Like every
Mm,
time we got together, my spirit was fed and I was
mhm,
around peers. And that's so important, especially when you're in a leadership role, because 9 out of 10 people look up to you for you to do something, and they look up to you for direction, and they look
mhm.
up to you to tell them what to do, how to do it, when to do it, where to do it. And it's exhausting. So when you can go into an environment where the people are feeding into you, and you're with folks on the same level, and you can just really relax and be
Right,
yourself without having to show up for anybody else but yourself,
right.
that is like spiritually feeding and nourishing, and just an ultimate experience. And that's why I call it church, because it's like every time I walked out, I felt like, "Oh, all right, I can go on another day,
Right,
another week, another month, because I've got my cup full." You know what I mean?
right.
You know how they always say, don't give from your cup, give from the saucer.
Yeah.
So, it allowed me to keep refill my cup, so now I
Right,
can give y'all off the saucer, right?
right.
So that was Rise for me. It was a great experience. And then after Rise, I did the Kellogg Foundation Fellowship.
Ooh, I didn't know you did
So,
that one.
yeah. Yeah, that one
Alright.
came with a little change.
Okay. Ting-a-ling-a-ling.
Yes. Thank you. So that one was amazing. It was 5 different place cohorts and places where Kellogg funds, and a national
Mhm,
cohort. So I was part of a national
mhm,
cohort with people from all over the country. But every
mhm,
quarter we got together in Michigan. We went to New Orleans. We
mhm,
went to New Mexico, New Orleans. Yeah, we went to New Orleans. We went to New Mexico. They came to San Diego in
mhm,
June, and I think that we went to Mississippi, Jackson,
mm,
Mississippi. So we got to visit all those places. Each time we were together, we spent a week together. And that was another just, like feeding into your leadership, your soul, creating these connections, learning more about yourself, learning more about your leadership style, learning more about the
mm,
community. Of course, equity and inclusion within that.
mhm.
Um, because Kellogg is all about just investing into people as they invest into their communities, because they're all about thriving
Love that.
families and thriving children. And yeah, so leadership programs for me have been amazing.
Right.
I should look for another one.
But,
I,
you
I
had
feel
me
like
thinking the
it's
same thing. I
about
was
that
like, "Man,
time.
I'm overdue." I think my last one was in 2020, so I'm overdue for a leadership program.
Yeah,
Um, because I think each one, like you said, like each one was like therapy for me. It helped me heal
right,
from something. It helped me grow from something, and it helped me become better. So that you know, I can feed others from a not from a empty cup, and get to closer to thriving instead of living in survival mode when it comes to my emotional and leadership bandwidth, right?
right,
And
right.
learning how to just to do that actively, proactively, in a healthy
Yeah,
way.
exactly, exactly. And you know, going on the trip to Jackson, Mississippi. So, mind you, in my Kellogg program, one of my colleagues or fellowship members was Rena Evers. So,
Hmm.
Megger Evers' daughter was actually a
Hmm.
part of the cohort, and going to her childhood home where her father was murdered during that civil rights period was just like, where else are you about to get that experience? You know what
Hmm.
I'm saying? And having her
Yeah.
talk about that night and when it happened and how it happened, and just walking us through the household, which still had bullets, in the walls. Basically, you can see like where the bullets
Mm.
came through, because they literally left the house as it was back then when he was assassinated. um
Mm.
and then it's little things, right? Like, he had the house built, and he had a gravel roof because that wouldn't burn, right? He had the front door on the side, which was under the garage, because he knew that he couldn't have a traditional walk up to the front door, because he's a target, right?
Mhm.
He normally wouldn't get out of his car on the driver's side. He would scoot through the passenger side because it was closest to the door to get into the house. Like all of that stuff, which is
Mm.
just like so impactful because I love studying about my culture and my people and the civil rights, movement and era specifically. So just to hear that insight was just like so dope. And the dopest thing about it was I got the
Mhm.
opportunity to take my girls there January of this year, take them to
Mm.
the house, show them the house, give them that same experience, and take them to different monuments within Jackson, Mississippi, including the Jackson Museum, and explain that same stuff to them and teach them those same things that were taught to me and things that I've just grown to learn through studying that time period. Like that is the cherry on top, right?
Mhm.
Because it's not only about what you're exposed to, but it's about what you expose others to as well. And so
Mhm.
now, I got that experience in my 30s. They're getting it in their teens. So just think about
Mm.
how much more they're going to be able to pile on top of that. Like that's really, the dope part about leadership programs is just how they expose you to so many different things that you can then pass on to the next generation.
Yeah, and that I think that exposure to me is so timely because there's so many things that we just truths that may have been hidden or misinformed to us, and
Right.
then we get that knowledge in the leadership, like, oh,
Right.
dang, I've been
It's
operating
crazy.
under this pretense for this long, and I've been misinformed. All right, I
Mhm.
need to correct myself.
Right. And that's the experience they got at, we did an HBCU tour, right? And we also took them to MLK's house in Atlanta. We went to the African American Museum in DC, and they're walking through the African American Museum like, yo, we're really dope as a people.
Yeah,
Our
yeah.
story didn't start with slavery. Yeah, no, it didn't. Welcome. Look at all of who we were before we arrived here. You know what I mean? And then all that we've been able to transition ourselves into even after this adversity.
Right.
Like, so having it be real, for kids today, you got to make it real. They have to be able to reach out and touch it. So learning about Emmett Till and then seeing his casket, like now and that that's
Mhm,
just not something that is a fly by night story. Like, no, this stuff really happened.
mhm.
Like, here's an actual slave house, and you can walk in it and see that you could barely take 2 or 3 steps without being back outside again. Like, no, this really happened.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think it's so important that we continue to share these stories, not to traumatize anybody, but to educate and bring
Right.
awareness. And also, something that I talk about with my other co-host, who's because I don't know if you knew this or not, but I grew up in a Nigerian household, and so
Hmm.
I knew how African culture and their mindset and how they come in because they don't have the same context of slavery from an Black American
Mm.
standpoint of view.
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
and they're coming from a society where there's Black presidents, Black leaders, and and they see that all the
Yeah.
time. So that's normalized to them, right? And so it's a different context when you come in and you have that knowledge and awareness. Like, wait, we dope. We built
Right.
this. We created this. We did that. And
Right.
even as we go today, the reason why I like try to keep doing this podcast to keep showing the dopeness of what we doing. That these stories probably won't be told in the white history books, but I want people to know in our community there's a whole bunch of dopeness that's being built
Yeah.
and done that's helped elevating us that we
Exactly.
you won't see in the history book. So, hopefully one day that will be in, as you can say, legacy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be the first. I'm gonna be the first person to advertise your legacy.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you.
At least I'm gonna try my best. Keep the lights on. um, you know, I wanna do this next segment with just kind of give something to those young people who you inspire and who are probably listening and is gonna hear your story and they're like, oh man, you know, T is dope and Fancy is dope. I want to do something just like that when I grow up, right? And something that we used to do back in the Connected Careers days, I kind of took this model with me. We used to do this little My First Job campaign.
Uh-huh.
It didn't take off as much as I would like to, but I'm gonna re-bring it back here, and then we're gonna go into some line of questions. And the reason why I like to ask what your first job was because a lot of our young folks when they get done with college, when I used to speak to them, or high school, they have this mindset like, oh, I finished college now, so I should get that six-figure job. I should be doing this,
Right.
that, that. I was like, nah,
I'm ready. I'm
nah,
ready for corporate.
yeah, yeah, young lad, it don't always, don't start off like that. And don't worry, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Like, like some of your favorite rappers started off with some humble beginnings. So please, humble yourself. And life is about the journey, because the things that you're gonna go through along the way is gonna help build you to who you need to be tomorrow.
Right.
So with all that being said, what was your first job?
Okay. You want W-2 job, like W-4, or you want
So
under
you're a
the
little hustler. So
table?
give me both. Give me your first non-W2 job, and then give me to the W2 job.
Technically, the fifth grade discountees was my first, income generating endeavor, right?
Okay.
Then after that, I transitioned into cleaning up the beauty shop because,
uh,
my mom has three sisters and my grandmother. They would go get their hair done every week. And so I was in there cleaning up, running to the store for the people getting their hair done and all of that. I
uh,
was making money from that. My uncle he still has a pressure washing business.
uh,
And at the age of 16, I was his bookkeeper, right? So I
uh,
started out filing his paperwork and then eventually transitioned into his bookkeeper. And so that was like my first job, but it was under the table, right? He wasn't taking
yeah.
out any taxes or anything like that. But my first job where they started to take out taxes was actually SeaWorld. And that was, I think I was like 17.
Okay.
I was like 16, 17
Yeah, you was
when I
just meant to
got my
be.
job with SeaWorld.
You was meant to be a little
In guest
entrepreneur.
relations, okay?
Guest relations?
I was in
What?
guest relations. I went to the interview with all my friends. They got put at the Shamu tank and over at the dolphin tank, and they was mad because
They're
I got
like, we need her. She know how to talk to people.
right.
She.
I got guest relations, right? I was in the office. I got the Nautica jacket. I had the slacks on with, with the nice shirt. And I remember Hush Puppies. I used to wear my Hush Puppies to work, and they would.
I remember Hush Puppies.
I've always been like, office work is what I do. I can't sweep at the Shamu tank. I'm not gonna be able to do that for y'all, but I can answer
But,
these phones.
I love it. So when you look back at your career to where you're at now, and and some that young person who's looking at it, or that person who maybe middle aged, detouring in life, right? And they look and they get inspired by your story. What would you say were some of the steps that you think you took that helped you be successful to get to where you're at today?
I started with what I had.
Mm,
I started with what I had where I was.
mm,
I didn't know how big DETOUR was going to get. I just knew that I wanted to help girls.
mm,
And that started out with, okay, me and my little sisters at the breakfasts, right? Like I mentioned. And then I was like, I like to take this into like a more formal environment because, we've been at the IHOP 4 hours. They kicking us out, right? I got all these kids. So I said, where can I hold a workshop at? Oh, I can hold a workshop up the street at the rec because it's free. So a good partner of mine at the time, rest in peace, Coach Pat, he happened to be one of my sister's basketball coaches. And so my little sister was like, oh, just talk to Coach Pat. He'll let you use the room. So I went up to the neighborhood rec center, talked to Coach Pat. They let me use the room for free. And I just started hosting workshops for the girls. And
Mm.
that was, where we began. And then I decided I went to the Essence Festival in New Orleans.
Mhm.
Mine was blown and was like, you know what? We need to do the West Coast Essence, right? I was like, I'm gonna start that. I'm gonna start the West Coast Essence for the girls. And that was the Fancy Expo. And I had the first Fancy Expo at that same Skyline Recreational Center
Uh-huh.
and right in the gym. I
Uh-huh.
think we had about six vendors. We
Uh-huh.
had 50 girls. We brought in $1,000. I gave away $900 in scholarships. The other $100, I got some program agendas printed up and some T-shirts.
Uh-huh.
And the rec donated. Coach Pat, right? He was like, I can
Uh-huh.
make I could barbecue the burgers and the hot dogs, right?
Uh-huh.
And so, then my mom, she brought some food for the girls and stuff. Everybody pitched in to make it happen.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I didn't
That's a
sit
fact.
back and create this long plan that was multiple pages, that was completely overwhelming,
Yeah.
enough to where I wouldn't even want to start. So start where you are with what you have. All I had was an idea. And that idea took me literally from step to step to step. And sometimes you don't know what step 6 is until you get to step 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you
So
go
true.
one step at a time, then you'll get what you need when you need it in order to move to the next level.
Mm. Love that. Love that.
Yeah, because it's being prepared for you. You're not ready for 6 if you're on 1.
Yeah.
So if you were to get 6 on 1, you may mess it up anyway.
Yeah. So true. Now, what's some advice you would give to somebody who wants to start a career in your industry? Because there's a lot of people who say, I just want to help people. I want to help people. You know, what she doing? She helping people nonprofit. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to help people. I'm going to start a nonprofit. I'm going to help people in this way. So, what's some advice you would give to somebody?
Pray and have a good therapist.
And so we pray. Pray. So we
Yeah, we pray.
pray.
Hey, I just watched the
We
MC
got
Hammer
to
movie
pray
last night.
to make it today.
Yes, I used to love me some Hammer in the 90s. I had the pants.
Right.
Um, yeah, I would say start like I started. I started by like volunteering for other organizations, and I went up under an organization and was fiscally sponsored for like the first year or two in
Mhm.
order to make sure that this was really what I wanted to do. Because I
Mhm.
didn't want to go and, file paperwork, pay for, processing, get this whole nonprofit status, all to be like, oh, I don't want to do this in 2 years, 3 years, and then have to dissolve the whole organization. So a
Mhm.
friend of mine had a nonprofit, and I partnered with her. She was my fiscal sponsor, and
Mhm.
that's where I did the beginning of my work, just to make sure that this is something that I really wanted to do. So you really have to integrate yourself into the environment to make sure that you're familiar and that you know what you're getting yourself into, that you've
Mhm.
had that exposure and that experience to at least see what a day in the life is of someone who does this work. Because
Mhm.
working with people, it can be very draining if you don't take care of yourself. So you have
Yeah.
to know, what your limits are, what your boundaries are, what works for you, in order to do it the right way so that you don't get burnt out.
Mhm. I love that. I love that. Um, what's one good lesson life has taught you?
Life be lifing. It be life.
Life be lifing.
It be life. I would really say, honestly, listen to your heart. And I know it's cliche, but when you really take the time to slow down and tap in with yourself,
Mhm.
like your internal compass will tell you what to do, where to go, who to trust, who not to trust. But what happens is we have so many distractions and so much noise around that we can't hear, you know, what our intuition is really telling us.
Mhm.
Um, so that's a continuous lesson for me because I always got stuff going and I'm running like a chicken with her head cut off. Um, but just reminding myself to just slow down and listen, right? Because what did Maya Angelou say? When people show you who they are, believe them the first
Yeah.
time. And we, make excuses like, oh, maybe she was having a bad day. Or
Mhm.
maybe this, maybe that. And it's like, no, that's your intuition telling you. Have you ever been to Skid Row in LA?
I haven't been, but I know. I
Hmm.
know very much so about it.
So one time I was looking for the garment district and walking around downtown, like I know it's over here somewhere. And as I was getting closer to Skid Row, my body, the feeling inside of me was like, oh, no, this ain't it. This is not the way you want to go, right? You have that same feeling when you walk into a party that you're not supposed to be at, or when you walk into any place where you just feel like, the energy is off, like something is
Right,
happening. So listen, like your body will let you know what you need to know, but you have to honor it and listen to it, and
right,
and do as it says, because for sure enough, I was completely in the wrong direction,
right,
the
yeah,
opposite direction of where I was supposed to be, and
yeah,
your body
definitely.
will
You
give
need
you
to
clues.
make a U-turn very quickly.
Right. Immediately. Okay. Remove yourself immediately from this environment. Turn around. Do not pass go. Do not collect your
It's not what you
$200.
want. It's not what you
No.
want.
No. No.
Wh- when you look at the future, especially for your industry, I want to like really focus on like the nonprofit industry, women empowerment, workforce development, things of that nature in the nonprofit industry. Uh, what does the future look like to you, especially for Black women in this industry and empowering Black women in this fellow industry?
I would say it looks like Black women continuing to create paths for the women who come behind us, for the girls who are coming up
Mm,
behind us. I went to the Women of Power conference in Vegas that was hosted by Black Enterprise, and it was at
mm,
the Bellagio Hotel, thousands of Black women,
mm,
right? And so I'm immediately talking to them like, so what do you guys have for girls? Like, because they should be in this environment. You know what I mean? And then how are the ladies here? How can they feed into the next generation of women who will be coming to these conferences, right? So
mm,
that's what I see: continuous mentoring, and because Black women have always given back to
mm,
everybody, right?
mm,
We are overworked and, we go hard all the time. We continue to make sure that our people are taken care of. So, what I would hope to see is more funding coming to
mm,
the industry for programs such as Fancy and leadership development programs for girls of color.
mm,
And within that funding, also more corporations supporting the work that we do so that we can
mm,
create pipelines of girls that are going into priority sector career fields, because we know it's not who it's not what you know, it's who you know, right?
mm,
And your net worth is in your network. So,
mm,
those strategic partnerships of corporations coming to a group like Fancy or coming to, any community based organization and saying, hey, we want to intentionally create opportunities for women of color in order to enter our industry.
mm,
So, that's what I want to see, not only corporations, but also colleges, right? Like we've
mm,
seen, USD, they have the Biggie program for rising
yeah.
fifth graders. And as long as they stay in the program from fifth to the 12th grade, they can get a full ride to USD. So, more opportunities like that where the resources are being provided for our girls to take advantage of opportunities that are out there and really level the playing field, because we know that money keeps the kids from going to colleges, right? Money also keeps the kids in these dead end jobs because it's easier
Mhm,
for me to go get a job at Jack in the Box versus SDG&E, right? Because the Jack in the
Mm-hmm.
Box is right here on the corner. I can get there quick. I can go after school, right? But it's going to take a corporation to say, okay, we'll provide transportation. We'll work around your hours. Like, we will get rid of every challenge or barrier so that you can take advantage of this opportunity. Because one thing also I know about my girls of color, they got to work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just like I was working, and some of them have to work in order to contribute to the household, and some of
Mm-hmm.
them have to work to just be able to get their own personal hygiene items, their own school clothes, their own
Mm-hmm.
ABC, right?
Yeah.
And that is not what the profile looks like in some of your more prestigious households where those
Mm-hmm.
kids don't have to work, and they're able to be involved in extracurricular opportunities. They're able to get transportation to wherever it is that they need to go because their parents aren't working 2 and 3
Yeah.
jobs. They're available
Yeah.
to take them wherever they need to go and to chauffeur them around around the town to get them access to these programs. And so it has to be very intentional with both educational institutions and corporations, making sure that they come to our community, engage our community, and nurture the relationships that they have within the community.
Facts, 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 big old facts. And then I'm gonna just throw this out to the universe. If any of you corporate sponsors who be listening and be reaching out to me, talk about, Taryell, we want to invest more in the Black community, but we just here's the type of people we want to work with. We just can't find them. We can't find them. You got one right here. So all y'all that pledged money during George Floyd, y'all having trouble getting the bag to these different individuals, you got one right here. Target.
Absolutely.
I know y'all invested in black books. You got
Yes.
another black writer right here.
Right.
Could we
Right.
could we get my girl
Listen,
T in the program? Get the book on the shelf,
and
please.
I
Put
want to
some
be the
fancy
next.
gear on the.
I want to be the next Miss Tabitha at the
There you
Target,
go. There you
like this,
go. Come on, Target.
with the book,
I'm
with the
putting it
book.
in the universe. I'm putting it in the universe. Come on, let's go. Let's
Yes,
go.
yes, 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 yes. Because that
uh,
is very, very important. And you know, it, oftentimes we don't know where to look, right?
uh-huh.
Because there's so many different places. Like, we don't know exactly where to start, where to look. When the meetings are, when the this is, when the that is. So intentionality is just like really important. Like, directly reaching out to those organizations that need your support.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, me and you could probably like go for 2 hours straight, but I don't do the Joy Rogan kind of podcast. We already went over a lot of time, but let's end it off like this. What projects are you currently working on? Where can the people find you?
Well, DETOURempowers.org. That is our organization website. And of course, findyourflair.org. That is where you can find my book and my training. So I actually do a guided training to go along with the book. I also have a workbook that goes through different personality types and styles and allows the girls to take that assessment to see what style they are, to learn their different strengths and value and how they stand out and what they bring into the room. Let's see, you caught me at the end of the program schedule. So fancy, we're going camping this weekend. We're going kayaking next weekend. We always have our scholarship gala, right? So we have our scholarship gala in March. This year we gave away $10,000 to 10 girls that are on their way to colleges and universities. Bam! All right. And then, of course, we have the Fancy Teen Girls Expo that takes place in every April. We have a bunch of STEAM programming coming up in the summer that's here and there. So we're just continuously, reaching out and empowering and impacting the lives of teen girls. We have All About Girls of Color podcast. So that is also
Wait,
something
y'all got a
to tap
podcast?
into. Yeah, All About Girls of Color.
Shoot, you had to send me the link to that. I didn't even
You
know
didn't
that.
know how to podcast?
I didn't know that. Oh man, how you gonna come to the podcast SD's podcast king. I'm gonna self-label myself that now. And not tell me that y'all got a podcast.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh.
So All About Girls of Color is a collaboration that I do with two of my colleagues, Janeja Sykes and Gabriela Delgado. We bring together stakeholders that are really combating systems that, create barriers for for girls of color. So the idea is to create an ecosystem to support our girls, right? So um, cross pollinating with child welfare services, juvenile health, wellness, all the different pieces that go into what makes a girl successful, right?
Right.
So we have a whole mapping project on our website, allaboutgirlsofcolor.com, that shows the different domains and the different areas within San Diego County as to where you can get those domains and where they're all provided versus where they're not, right? Those discrepancies in between the neighborhoods within the county. So yes, that's the thing. And I'm just out here,
She
out here,
outside. They out here. She
out
working.
here
Yo, you
working.
know what I was thinking? As a girl dad, I know I'm a male, but how can I best? I want to support the ecosystem. I won't be in here. I want to make sure that I know you invited me to a couple of things here and there, but like don't reach out to your boy is all I'm saying. Like you tell
Yeah.
where can I jump in? If I'm gonna be a backup dancer, I'll be a backup dancer. I
Yeah,
can do my
we
thing.
do. We have a membership program. So the information about the membership program is on the website detourempowers.org, where you can donate monthly, you can donate annually, and that you'll get invitations to like the mixers and other events that we do.
Okay. And
Yeah.
when my little girl get of age, she gonna be fancy.
Yes,
I I,
yes.
I just gotta wait for
Yeah.
her to grow up a little bit.
Yeah. And our Instagram is at Detour Fancy. That's our
At
Instagram.
DETOUR Fancy. And don't
Yeah.
worry, if you're driving, don't worry. I'm gonna put all this information. I'm gonna get it from
Yes. Please keep your
uh
eyes on the road.
yes, keep your eyes on the road. I'm putting it all in the show notes. So don't worry, don't worry. T, it's been a pleasure having you on. I'm thankful, I'm grateful, I'm excited for you, and the
Yeah.
future is
Thank you.
bright. Let's keep building together and let's go. Find your flair.
Right.
Woo! Ric
Find your
Flair drip.
flair.
Find
Your
your
flair.
flair. Your flair.
So that you can
This,
come on Taryell's
there you
podcast.
go. This has been another episode of Rise Urban Nation. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to us, and we'll catch you on the next time.
Thanks, T.